It was scary because the doors were always locked, and you just go like this and you bang, doors would be shut. There was a lot of things that went on there that shouldn't have, you know. I live at Jasper House, and I've retired. I used to work for Catholic Social Services. I used to do the yard work for them. I have a life, and I enjoy what I do.
What was it like living at Michener Center?
Well, it was tough. I remember this one guy. He was there for a long time, and there was not very many people that got along good with him, because he had no respect for people there, and he was one of the tough guys. He would take your shoe off or your slipper, hit you on the head, and throw his keys at you and twist your hand back like that. And he was, he thought, I guess, that he was better than anyone else. But and if we told our families what happened, they wouldn't believe us, because they would say, the people that worked there would say it never happened. So we couldn't really say anything. There was nobody that stood up for us when he did those things. The first day when I moved into Michener Center, I was about 10 years old. My parents dropped me off there, and man, it was so hard for me to leave my family that all they did was give me some other clothes. I couldn't wear my regular clothes. They gave me jeans and all that, and a shirt, and they would just drag you and put you in the day room there, and we all had to line up to go into the dining room to eat, lined up to go into the shower, take a shower. But when you lined up to go take a shower, you had to walk down the hallway, no clothes on at all, and people could see you. You could walk down the hallway into the shower, to the shower room. It was scary because the doors were always locked, and you just go like this and you bang, doors would be shut. I had a key, and they always would walk around with the key to lock the day room doors, lock the dormitories where people would go and sleep. And they would give you stars if you did something good. They give you these X blanks, what you call blank, if you did something wrong. Some of us were scared to say anything, scared for our lives, you know. And I've seen some of the people there that they were taken into this little room by themselves, no clothes, no clothes on, and all there was just, there was no sink. All there was just a mattress on the floor, and there was no bed at all. You had no clothes on, and you could see you had these thick glass windows, but you still could see people walking around in there, and you would be locked in there. And if you were going home, they would give you you can go home, and they would have like a memo, which they would say when you were going home and how long you were going for. But going home, that was a good thing. But then coming back, that was the hardest thing. I couldn't wait until I moved out. They didn't tell us anything. All they said was we were going on a trip, and that was it. And then they told my parents that we had to be sterilized because they didn't want kids. They didn't want people having kids, because they had boys on one side, ladies on the other side. But they were afraid if you can get mixed up. And they, and to me, I always say that we were scarred. Yes, I remember going for operation, but they said we were just going on our trip, and they didn't say, Then we were all checked and everything, and in the medical, clinic room. We all stayed in bed, and then the next day we were all sterilized in different groups. And Dr. Levan, he did some of the surgery, because I remember that. And then there was another doctor that did some too.
How old were you when you were sterilized? Do you know?
I was about 16, I think, around there.
Do you remember how old you were when you found out that you had been sterilized?
I don't know how old I was then, but I was asking questions. And then my mom and dad told me, dad and mom told me what happened. They said that in those days, that's what the doctors, Dr. Levan and all the doctors suggested. But there was nothing much I could do, but it's still, I feel offense, a little bit disappointed that was done, because, they took control of our body and they did it, and they didn't ask us. There was a lot of things that went on there that shouldn't have, a lot of people say, oh, you got to forget about the past. And I always tell people, no, you can't. Because if it's inside you, it's like it's burnt inside you. People don't know what we went through until they've been in there. Because they say, oh, we know what you went through. And I always tell people, no, you don't know what we went through until you've been there. You got to let it out, and you got to let people know what went on, so that it doesn't never ever happen again. And we can build bridges to help people, and we can remove barriers that were in front of us, and I'm so proud of how far we have come. Society was saying at one time, people with disabilities, these are words from them. They said, people with disabilities cannot function in the community. Well, we have proven them wrong. And we can open more doors. We can educate society. We can educate the government officials. We can educate people that don't know.
Roy, do you think that you might have got married and had a family if they hadn't sterilized you?
I probably would have, yeah. But and that would be a big responsibility. But I know, a person can handle it with a little bit of guidance. But a lot of people think people with disabilities can't handle raising a family on their own. And I don't think that nobody has the right to make that decision.
Do you think you would have been a good dad?
I think so. The funny thing was, when I moved out of Michener Center, I said two things. I wanted to make a difference in people with disabilities' lives. I said I didn't care how I was going to do it, but I was going to do it. I was committed to do it. I always tell people that for people with disabilities, don't be afraid to speak out, for your rights, because you do have rights. And I always tell people, you don't label people, you label jars, you label cans. I always tell people that we have to look at people with disabilities for their disability. Don't look at them for who they are. They're a person first. Their disability comes second. Because if it's inside you, it's like it's burnt inside you. People don't know what we went through.
What do you think of the video?
Yeah, I think it's good. Just leave it as it is. We have to look at people with disabilities for their disability. Don't look at them for who they are. They're a person first.
Yeah.
Their disability comes second.
Yeah.
What did you think was the most important thing you said in that video?
That we all have voices and that we shouldn't be afraid to let people know.
What are you thinking about, Kyle? You look like you're... Yeah? You thought it was good?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? When you hear about the stuff that Roy went through, yeah?
Yeah.
It's pretty sad not about everything he went through. No, I've never experienced anything like that, but it's just so heartening, to hear from other people what they went through.
Roy, how do you feel about your life now?
I feel that it's, feel better about my life. That I still got more to accomplish.
Yeah, that's good.